Hey guys, this is Nikki Chakowski, and I'm going to be doing a quick demo of how I use the For a Selected Item SharePoint Power Automate Trigger to run a flow from a selected SharePoint list item. This really is Power Automate's best kept secret. So for right now, I am showing you my configured SharePoint list called Team Members, and as you can see, I've created my hyperlink column called Run Flow, and this is where I have inputted my custom JSON formatting that I'll show in a minute. In order to trigger my flow from a selected list item, first I have to make sure I select a list item. Then I click on my hyperlink text, run the flow, and on the right-hand side here, a panel called Run Flow is going to pop up. It first lists me my flow name, which is just for a selected item, and the owner of the flow, which is me. Here, if you have configured any parameters in your For a Selected Item trigger, they will appear here for the user to input the values in. I have one parameter in my trigger called employee code, so I'm just going to enter it here. And then from there, I can just click Run the Flow. And I get a little notification here that the flow has started, just to let me know that things have been kicked off. Okay, now I'm going to take a look at my flow and show you guys how I have it hooked up. So I just switched to my flow. It's called for a selected item. I'm going to refresh my runs, and I can see that the run that I just initiated 18 seconds ago has succeeded. So I'm going to click into this and just show you guys what's going on here. So here's my trigger for a selected item. And I can see that I have an object that I'm passing in called employee code, which was my input parameter. And the only action that I have in my flow is just a compose here of my employee code parameter, and I just printed out the value that I put in it. So it's really simple flow, not really doing much. I'm gonna go into edit here and just show a few more things about this trigger. So if we take a look at this trigger, this is the section where I can add inputs. This is probably familiar to you, so I've just added a text input employee code, and you can see that it has been totally connected to my SharePoint list. That right pane comes up and it recognizes the employee code parameter, which is awesome. I am going to show you guys some dynamic content that we get from the For Selected Item trigger. So of course, we get the ID of the item. We get the user ID, username, and user email of the person who triggered the flow. So in this case, it would be my name, my email, and my user ID. We get the timestamp the flow was triggered. We also get any inputs, such as my input here, input parameter, employee code. What is interesting about this is what we don't get in this dynamic content right off the bat is all of these other fields in my list. So you may be expecting, hey, why isn't the value for team member or team name pulling over? Well, you have to do a little work to get it. What I would recommend is just putting a get items query here and hooking up my site in my list. And in the filter query, I would just simply write ID of my SharePoint list equals the ID of the For a Selected Item trigger. So the good thing is that we do get the ID, so we can get all of those values for the rest of our columns. We just have to do a little work with this get items action. So that is the Power Automate side. Now I'm going to show you the SharePoint side of how this was configured. So I'm going to just show you the column settings, the formatting of this run flow column. And this is where all the magic happens. This is my custom JSON schema that I'm putting into my hyperlink column. And the most important things to note here are that I am including my flow's flow identifier right here in the action params item. So if I go back over to my flow, I can show you how to grab that flow identifier really quick. If you go to export, get flow identifier, it's right here. This whole thing gets copied and pasted right over into my JSON here. A couple other things that are happening here is that I am using an icon called flow. That's what that little flow icon is. And then I'm configuring the text that is shown next to it. And I'm also configuring the color of what I am displaying here. So you can probably get a lot fancier than me, use cooler icons, cooler colors, come up with something that looks a lot prettier than this. But bare bones, what you really need to know is that you're putting the flow's flow identifier right into here to get this JSON to work. And that's really all there is to it. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you can implement this soon in some of your own projects.